Before we start, I want you to forget the documentaries you have seen. Forget the sentimental music, the heartwarming narration about love in the ice, and the cute marching birds.
That is a bit harsh. The emperor penguin is an icon of resilience. People love them because they endure so much for their chicks. It is a story of devotion.
It is a story of physics. If you look at an emperor penguin through the lens of evolutionary biology, you don't see a devoted parent. You see a walking, breathing violation of our intuition about thermodynamics. You see a biological machine that has hacked the laws of heat transfer to survive where life should technically be impossible.
Hacked the laws of heat transfer. They are birds, not engineers. They have feathers and fat. That is insulation, not engineering.
That is exactly what I mean. We think of them as just surviving the cold, but they are actively manipulating it. They are exploiting the void of space to generate heat.
Okay, that sounds like science fiction. How can a bird exploit space?
That is the paradox. And to understand it, we have to look at the raw data. Open the file to page 1.
The thermodynamic paradox. The image shows a thermal scan of a penguin. The data overlay is strange. Surface temp, minus 23.2 degrees Celsius.
Look closely at the comparison. The air temperature is minus 17.6. The bird's feathers are minus 23.2.
Wait, the bird is colder than the air.
Exactly. This is the hook that mainstream biology glosses over. The emperor penguin is a radiator so efficient that it breaks the intuition of heat transfer. On clear Antarctic nights, the radiative temperature of the sky drops to minus 40 degrees Celsius or lower.
So the sky sucks the heat out of them.
It does, but here is the genius of it. By supercooling their outer shell through radiative loss to the cosmos, these birds create a paradoxical microenvironment where they actually gain heat from the freezing air through convection.
Because heat flows from hot to cold. If the air is minus 17 and the bird is minus 23,
the warmer, freezing air actually flows into the plumage. They are using the hostile atmosphere as a heat source. It is marginal, yes, but from an evolutionary perspective, it is the ultimate efficiency hack. They are minimizing the metabolic cost of maintaining a 36.9-degree core by stealing heat from the wind.
That is incredible. They are weaponizing the physics of the void.
Precisely, and this level of extreme adaptation tells us something important. Evolution doesn't build a machine this complex just for the sake of it. It builds it to exploit a niche that no one else can touch.
Which brings us to why they are there in the first place. Why endure this? Why not just migrate north, like a sensible bird?
Because everyone else is migrating north. Turn to page 2.
The siege strategy. The visual is bleak, just blue-gray ice and a single colony. The text says competition 0.0.
The blue pill perspective is that the penguin is a martyr. The red pill of evolutionary biology is that the penguin is a ruthless contrarian investor.
An investor.
Think about it. Suffering is a cost. Evolution doesn't pay costs without a massive return on investment. Why breed in the dead of winter when every other sentient creature flees?
To avoid predators.
To secure a monopoly by shifting their reproductive cycle to the thermodynamic nadir of the planet. Aptenodytes forsteri has achieved something no other seabird has. A predator-free nursery. No skuas, no giant petrels, no leopard seals can operate effectively on the fast ice in July.
So they pay the upfront cost of fasting for 4 months to ensure their chicks have zero threats.
Exactly. They are leveraging the winter as a barrier to entry for everyone else. It is the siege strategy. Endurance as the ultimate competitive advantage. They are using the cold to hide their legacy.
But even with zero predators, the cold itself is a predator. How do they survive minus 50 degrees without freezing to death? I know they huddle, but is body heat really enough?
The huddle is another misunderstanding. We project human emotion onto it. We think it is about cooperation. It isn't. It is about fluid dynamics. Go to page 3.
The fluidized state. This graphic is fascinating. It looks like a vector field, not a group of animals. Phase transition temperature, minus 48.2 degrees.
The huddle is a dissipative structure that behaves according to the laws of condensed matter physics. Individual penguins are not making conscious decisions to cuddle. They are particles in a system undergoing a phase transition.
Like water turning to ice.
Similar, when the apparent temperature, wind, humidity, radiation, drops below a critical threshold, calculated at roughly minus 48.2 degrees, the colony transitions from a gas-like fluid to a solid-state lattice.
But if they become solid, the ones on the outside would freeze.
Which is why the system isn't static. Evolution coded a fluidization protocol. Every 30 to 60 seconds, a wave of small steps propagates through the huddle.
It says here, it triggers a reorganization.
It rotates cold birds to the warm core and warm birds to the edge. This is thermal convection, analogous to the Rayleigh-Bénard instability in heated fluids. The huddle is a thermodynamic machine that creates a microclimate of up to 37.5 degrees in the center.
So they aren't just standing there. They are flowing.
They act as a singular, viscous fluid to minimize the collective entropy production. It is not cooperation. It is an emergent physical law.
That explains the group behavior. But what about the individual males? They stand there for months, starving, holding an egg. No fluid dynamics can explain that level of willpower.
You are right. Physics explains the group. Endocrinology explains the individual. Hardware is useless without software. Turn to page 4.
The commitment code. We have a comparison here. A male in a blizzard versus a hormone structure. Prolactin levels remain elevated for roughly 3 months after failure.
This is the software update that makes the emperor penguin possible. In most birds, parental care is reactive. It is triggered by the sight of an egg or the sound of a chick.
If the egg breaks, they leave.
Usually, yes. Hormones drop, game over. But the emperor's system is hard-coded for an endogenous drive. Male prolactin levels rise before the egg is even laid and remain chemically locked at high levels even if the bird loses the egg.
Why would evolution select for that? If the egg is lost, shouldn't they save themselves?
Because the environment is so extreme that quitting is a systemic risk. The males endure sensory deprivation, darkness, and starvation. If they relied on external stimuli, they might abandon the egg during a whiteout.
So evolution removed the quit option.
They are chemically programmed to stand their ground until the job is done or they die. It is a hormonal siege mentality that overrides the biological imperative of self-preservation.
That is intense, but standing there is one thing. Keeping the chick alive is another. If the female is late returning from the sea and the chick hatches, what does it eat? The male hasn't eaten in months.
This is the most impressive logistical hack of all. The male isn't just a heater. He is a storage unit. Go to page 5.
Biochemical cold storage. We are looking inside the stomach now. Sphenicins inhibit fungal and bacterial growth at 38 degrees Celsius.
This is the source code. The male incubates for months. If the female is delayed, the chick hatches into a world with no food. The male, starving, produces a crop milk, but he also stores undigested food in his stomach for weeks at body temperature without it rotting.
How is that possible? Food rots in a warm stomach.
Not if you manufacture sphenicins. These are beta-defensin antimicrobial peptides that effectively turn his stomach into a sterile refrigerator.
So he creates a preservative.
He targets specific bacteria and fungi that would normally decompose the food. This allows him to preserve high-value protein at 38 degrees for the hatchling.
It is a just-in-time logistics solution.
Coded directly into their immune system. It ensures the supply chain to the chick remains intact, even when the parents are separated by hundreds of kilometers of ice.
It seems like they have a solution for everything. Radiative cooling, fluid dynamics, hormonal locks, biochemical storage. They are perfect.
They were perfect for the Holocene, but the environment is changing faster than their code can compile. We are starting to see the limits of their programming. Turn to page 6.
The system patch. We are looking at satellite imagery. Obligate status revoked.
For decades, scientists classified emperor penguins as sea ice obligates. We thought they were biologically hardwired to breed only on stable, fast ice. We thought they were too clumsy to climb.
But the photos show them on top of ice shelves.
Satellite data revealed a behavioral patch. Colonies have been observed relocating *** onto the floating glacial ice shelves when sea ice fails to form. These birds are scaling ice cliffs to find stable ground.
So they are adapting. That is good news, right?
It is phenotypic plasticity. It suggests the species possesses a hidden resilience code. They are actively debugging their breeding strategy in real time.
But, I hear a but coming.
But physics has hard limits. You can patch the behavior, but you cannot patch the thermodynamics of the entire continent.
That brings us to the prediction. Page 7.
Thermodynamic crash. The graph shows the population flatlining, predicted to have by 2052.
The visual shows the huddle breaking apart.
The huddle works because it is a stable dissipative structure. It relies on the apparent temperature staying within a manageable range. But climate change introduces volatility that exceeds the system's dampening capacity.
If the ice breaks, the game is over.
If the sea ice breaks up before the chicks fledge in December, the cost is infinite. The chicks are not waterproof. It is instant death.
And the ice shelf solution?
It is a temporary fix. It comes with risks like calving events, the shelf itself breaking off, and wind scour.
So the biology can adapt. But the physical substrate is failing.
Precisely. If the physical substrate, the ice, becomes thermodynamically unstable, the biological superstructure, the colony, cannot maintain its low-entropy state.
The siege strategy relies on the castle walls.
And we are melting the walls. The prediction is logical and ruthless. The future isn't a biological decline. It is a system crash.
It is a tragedy. We look at them and see a cute bird. But we are watching a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering disintegrate.
We are watching the end of a specific thermodynamic niche. The emperor penguin exploited the void, mastered the cold, and built a civilization on the edge of the impossible. But even the best engineering cannot survive when the ground beneath it turns to water.
I'll meet myself